אורית.
חודש שנגמר, האנגלית צריך לראות.
בעברית. אוי, נכון. אין לנו את האנגלית פה?
לנתנאל אולי יש עוד אנגלית לכאורה. טוב, נתחיל?
אבל מה, כשהיא מדברת ואני מדברת אנחנו נעביר את זה?
תגיד שאתה מוכן.
אולי תוכל להביא את האנגלית.
אוקיי.
מאיפה? לא יודעת.
Okay, let's turn the light on.
מהמשרד זה בלגן.
Sarah, can you turn the light on and we'll start? There we go. Shalom Aleichem. Welcome everybody. The final session, you know, you leave the best for last, as you know. Acharon Chaviv. I'd like to just say a word about, my name is Amichai Bannett. I'm in charge of Herzog Global at Herzog College. And Herzog Global is the long arm of Herzog College, just like Herzog College knows to train and to do professional development for teachers around Israel. Herzog Global does it around the Jewish world. We have a program in English, such as the one we have today. We have our staff is actually right now, including the husband of Mrs. Rice is here. Rabbi Dr. Shuki Rice is the head of Tanakh at Herzog, are right now, as we speak, presenting the same thing in Spanish in Buenos Aires, a conference with 1,400 teachers. And earlier this week, we signed an agreement with a college in Ukraine to do a program in Russian or Ukrainian, we'll see, so we do things all around the Jewish world. And one of the things that we do is Yemei Yun B'Tanakh in English. And as you might not know, and now you'll know, Yemei Yun B'Tanakh in English happens because of Rabbi Dr. Shalom Berger. And I like to give the mashal of, you know, the paradigm used to be that excuse me for saying, the rich Jews of whatever Chutz La'aretz like to support the chalutzim, right, the pioneers in Israel, and they give money to plant trees in Israel. Now with Herzog Global, you can plant a tree in Israel, which actually gives its fruit in your community, because we train people from all around the world to, and my phone talks about Tanakh also, as you can see. We train people all around the world to help in their communities. So that's why we thought that it would be a nice idea to give Shalom a small gift, a small tree. So you could, if you don't like this kind of tree, you can always exchange it to a different kind of tree. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting the tree. But,
thank you very much.
Oh, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Okay, so now Shalom will introduce our panel.
Thank you for the introduction. I was going to introduce myself. Indeed, I put together the Yemei Yun B'Tanakh in English, so I did a brief introduction at the very first shiur with Rav Moshe Lichtenstein, and this is an opportunity for me to close it as well. We can bookend. This year we added a number of things aside from the 2 days of shiurim. Yesterday we had a tour in English that was canceled and then recomposed. We had a program in Modi'in in English and in Hebrew, which we've never done before. And this Yom Morim, we hope this is the first of many where we reach out to teachers, English-speaking teachers who are here in Israel, and as well as in Chutz La'aretz, thanks to the support of United, which is helping us broadcast this live. I'd like to say a few words about the program that is being developed, and the sadna, the workshop that we're going to have now, is in fact going to introduce the concept that really is Rabbi Dr. Shuki Rice's brainchild, Tanakh HaSipur Shalanu, that the Tanakh can be viewed. We spent the day here, for those of you who've been here since the morning, talking about what's Torat Mechlalet Herzog, what are the approaches. And this is something of a shift in that it really, really focuses not so much on the close reading of Tanakh, although there certainly are maps, but this is much more the idea of introducing the Torah, the Tanakh, as a story that speaks to me, that speaks to my life. The very first, I know that you all think that the very first story we're going to talk about are the 2.5 Shivatim that wanted to settle on the Ever HaYarden HaMizrachi, but no, the first story that's being developed is in fact the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. What's special about this, aside from the sadna, the workshop that you're going to do right now, is that really what Mechlala Herzog is going to try to do is to work with teachers in Chutz La'aretz. So it's not so much preparing a set curriculum that we're going to hand to teachers and say, okay, use this, because we all know what happens with those kind of curricula. But really the idea is to develop partnerships with schools and to work with teachers to make sure these things make sense in their classroom. But since I was given a microphone and an opportunity to talk, I'm going to say a word of Torah because that seems like an appropriate thing to do. And the idea of starting a story with the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim is not Mechlala Herzog's idea. It's something that appears in a Mishnah. And in fact, you guys do it every single year. Those of you who are in Chutz La'aretz, I'm sorry to say, do it twice a year. You should all be zochet to move to Eretz Yisrael and do it just once. And of course, I know that we focus on Tanakh, but I'm going to start with a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Mazgu lo kos sheni. It's a Mishnah in Mesechet Psachim, and it describes the Seder. Kan ha-ben shoel aviv, v'im ein dat ben aviv mulamdo. Right, all those questions are the Arba Kushiyot, which really are 4 statements that you're supposed to teach your children. But we'll skip to the very, very end. V'doresh me arami oved avi ad shigmor kol ha-parasha kula. Do you do that at home? Well, why don't we take a look at the parasha? We'll look at the parasha. And here we've already moved to our Tanakh. And kol ha-parasha kula ends with the words Vayivi'enu al hamakom hazeh vayiten lanu et haaretz hazot eretz zavat chalav udvash. We don't get up to that, but the Mishnah said ad sheyigmor et kol parasha kula. But I have a different question I'd like to ask you. If you were going to choose a text for your Seder, what text would that be? Yes. You would choose to Parshat Shmot and Va'era and Bo. That's what you would do. And do you know what you really do with the Seder? The amazing thing is, you're Doresh Me'aramei Oved Avi. And what do? You quote Psukim here, right? You say, Vayarei Otam Yisrael Vayanunu, Kamo Shenamar, Vayavidu B'nei Yisrael B'farech. What you do is you take this parsha and then you go back to Sefer Shmot and quote Psukim from Sefer Shmot. You know what? I have a good idea. Let's skip the middleman. Let's take your suggestion and just start with the Psukim and Sefer Shmot in the first place. Why do we need this parsha? Why do we need the parsha that is read? Yes, not all at once. Rachel.
Because it's in first person.
Rachel skips and says already the answer that, of course, I was going to give. No, that's wonderful. It's wonderful. Which is that it's in the first person. It's my story. Yes, it's Tanakh HaSipur Shalanu. And we want it to be my story. If we read the Chumash Sefer Shmot, we're going to hear about things that happened to somebody else. But we want to hear Arami Oved Avi, Vayirei Otanu HaMitzrim, Vayanunu, Vayidnu Aleinu Avada Kasha. We want to relate to this directly. And the sadna that you are going to be participating in a minute is going to be an illustration of how that works. Did you want to say something, Brian?
Yeah, just to echo what you were saying, which is a bizarre moment. I believe I heard this a few times from people, including Rabbi Lichtenstein, that Rabbi Lichtenstein Zatzal had his Russian relatives over for the first during the Russian Aliyah, and they came over and they had an entire Seder, and they did everything and said everything, and at the end of the night he said, "This was really, really wonderful. Just one question: who's Moshe?"
Mm-hmm.
It was like just
Right. So it's important. I do want to do one thing that's Herzogy before I hand the microphone over. Okay, one Herzogy thing. Tzvi Grummet a few minutes ago introduced you to Al HaTorah. If you aren't familiar with it too, let's just do a quick review of one of the most basic things that every child knows. How many Lashonot Geula are there? Right, what are they? V'hotzeiti, v'yitzalti, v'ga'alti, v'lakachti. So some of you say v'heveti, and I'm going to go one further. Why not say there's 6? What's next? V'heveti etzchem al ha'aretz, asher nasati yadi lateit ota, no. V'natati ota lachem morasha, ni Hashem. So there are 2 that we don't talk about because we're so focused, as by the way we really are at the Seder, on the Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim, and we don't talk about, some people do, but most people don't talk about Veheveti V'natati, which of course is very, very, very Eretz Yisraeli. So I will point out one other interesting thing about this, and I'll hand this off. We pointed out that this is neat, that if you click on a word here, it lights, all of them light up. Okay, we're going to click on Tavo, right? And wow, look how many times, right? What we're looking for is? What were the 5 and 6? Veheveti and V'natati. Okay, so we're looking for 2 sharashim. The sharash of lahavi and lateit. Wow! Look at the milim manchot that appear here in the parsha that we're supposed to. So, of course, the answer, Rachel, yes, is that it's because it's in the first person Sipur Shalanu. But apparently, there are other little secrets here too about reasons that we're supposed to relate to this. Somehow, our Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim has lost the element of the Heveti and V'natati. But we have been zochet to live in a generation that we can come to Eretz Yisrael. We can't yet bring bikurim, but still we have reached the state where the Heveti and Natati is something that we see and experience in our own lives. Oh, I probably should introduce. I should introduce our speakers. I have had the pleasure this year of working with Orit and with Chaviva, who are the moving forces behind Tanakh Sipur Shalanu. I play a small role that I make in English. They do the content, the heavy lifting, and then I make it English.
There's Moshe and Aaron. Thanks for this great introduction of Shalom Berger. Okay, so just a moment. I'm going to switch the.
Okay. It's there. It's there already.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone here in Herzog College and everyone who's online. My name is Orit and this is Dr. Chaviva Speter. We both, as Shalom Berger said, are writing this year and having this beautiful journey of writing this program. This is actually not only a workshop that you're going to experience, but also the launch of this program, which will, yes, thank you, which will hopefully be ready by September for teachers to use in Spanish, in French, and in English. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to work for teachers who are teaching middle schools, but it could also be adapted somehow to even lower grades and higher grades. And as you will see, as we go over the workshop and the explanation about the program, you will see that it's very, very modular, meaning that teachers can take the program, take the different parts of it, and make it useful and good for their classes as they know them and as they know the level of the class and everything. So we'll start with a short video that will expose to you the program, and then we'll do the workshop and you'll experience by yourself.
Just tell them that they can find everything in the link in the description.
The link? Wait, 1 second. What do you say?
Still to the people who watch.
Whoever is watching online can see it.
Link in the description. So
There's a link in the description. Okay.
Our rich heritage, fostered through the captivating stories of the Bible, our holy Tanakh. We embrace our rich heritage, fostering connections and passing on our cultural legacy. These stories are not just ancient tales. They are the origins of our traditions, our values, and our collective memory. The Tanakh is our story, is a cutting-edge online platform created to empower educators and transform the field of Tanakh education. By enhancing these timeless stories, it captivates students and nurtures a profound bond with their Jewish heritage. As students delve into these narratives, they will discover the struggles, triumphs, and lessons of our ancestors. They will witness the transformative journeys of biblical figures and find parallels in their own lives. They will understand that they are part of an ongoing story that spans centuries. The program offers an extensive toolbox for storytelling, including integrated lesson plans, printables, videos, and digital materials, alongside interactive tools. It is modular, allowing teachers to choose, customize, and enrich their lessons, while staying up to date with the best techniques in Bible education.
בואו תהיו חלק מהסיפור, הסיפור של העם היהודי המשותף לכולנו, להעניק משמעות מחודשת והשראה לתלמידים שלנו לדורות הבאים.
Okay, so we're starting out with the birth of the new nation, the beginning of Shmot. Rav Shalom explained why we started with Sefer Shmot, and hopefully we'll be writing for the whole Tanakh. And Chaviva will start now with exercising of the workshop.
Okay, אז צהריים טובים, good afternoon everybody. את זה גם?
כן, צריכה גם להחזיק את זה. לא.
Okay, sorry, I have to have this too. Okay, what we're going to do now is instead of talk about our program, okay, I'll start. Instead of just talking about our program, we wanted to at least have a taste of the program by doing and not just talking about. So I hope you got, and if not, Hadar will give out. These are some of the hands. Put down, and we're offering out, whoever is watching us can go into and do it online, to write down what milestones, what steps would you mention in your story, and think about where you start your story. When somebody asks me, where are you from? I say I'm from Kfar Etzion, but then they ask me, I said, no, I was born in New York. My parents made Aliyah when I was 6 weeks old. I can start before that. Okay, so we'll try and think about, and so take a minute to think, where would you start your story? Okay, and we'll take a few minutes for that, and then we'll collect some ideas.
Where did you start your story?
Try and put down whatever you would start with, what points you would want to include. Okay. Okay. I know it can take hours to do, but we just want to give a taste, okay? So now what I want is if you can share with the person that is sitting next to you. You don't have to share your whole personal story, but we want to concentrate on the question where you chose to start your story. And what was that point, and why do you think it was important to start in that? Okay, עוד אחת? Okay. Okay, and try to think what's the significance of the point you started, okay? And just discuss between each one with their pair that's sitting next to you.
Okay, even if you didn't write, you can just think about the title.
נו רגע, מה הסיפור שלך? מעניין אותי.
אני רוצה להתחיל במקור של ההורים שלי, מאיפה הם.
What's the principle of this exercise?
עלינו ארצה לפני 22 ואנחנו עברנו מסענו. הסיפור שלנו זה ככה 2.0.
וואו, מגניב.
עליתם כזוג?
כן.
כבר נשואים? והילדים הם רבקה
No, so it's a good question because we are applying to teachers and to principals, and in all different schools, it's different schools. So also Orthodox schools can use it within, in addition to Parshanut and to learning the text, because it gives another level of meaning.
What I'm getting to it, almost all the schools in America anyway, I think everywhere are Orthodox. You have some community schools, but they're not particularly interested in Tanakh anyway. They're more interested in, I don't know, Tikkun Olam or something.
Yeah, but
so my question is, if you have things like this that go to Orthodox headmasters, or whatever you want to principals, whatever you want to call them, does the idea of having someone sitting with
their family story, it's always hard to stop.
Or having a woman and they pray.
Okay, you have 20 minutes, 20 seconds to find a point you want to stop
question.
at.
I will speak at it. No, at the end.
Stop.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
There are not enough active quotes.
נראה לי שגם על זה נגעתי. זה אדר?
Hopefully we'll get to the people who are interested in this position.
זה מהבהב pause.
Tanakh, nor will you have a rabbi, whatever you call them, with a prayer in a black thing, like my conservative rabbi back home used to wear, with a little prayer shawl. You're not going to get people that way. If I saw that, I'd throw it out. So I would look at it. All right, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Okay.
At the end, we'll have a discussion about the program.
Please find a point in your story that you can stop at.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We're going to stop wherever you got to. You can continue afterwards. I know it gets very interesting to hear other people's stories and their personal stories. let's try and collect ideas of where, at what point did your story start? If you can give us, or try and articulate it, what was the starting point of your story? Give in a title. Yeah. Hometown, okay. Parents. Birth. Okay. Where? Aliyah, making Aliyah. Okay.
Parents the little bit before.
Okay. Okay, parents, grandparents, yeah?
First week of yeshiva.
First week of yeshiva, okay. So we have you making Aliyah. Any others?
Well, I also started parents.
Parents, okay. And, yeah?
Name.
Okay. What is the meaning of your name? Your name. What's the meaning of the name? And if we would if each one of us would take the story and now try and start it at a new point, at a different point, I'm sure it would affect what title would we give the story. If I start my story from my grandparents, or if I start it from when I was born, or from when I met Aliyah, or Sarah here, maybe you want to share with us where you started your story?
Well, we're Abraham and Sarah, so the obvious place for us to start is that I called it Lech Lecha 2.0.
Okay, I'll repeat so everybody can hear. Sarah said her husband's name is Abraham, and they made Aliyah, so they repeated the ancestors, Abraham and Sarah, and going back to what Abraham and Sarah did. So, and the title of our story, okay, is dependent on where we start the story. And if you've been into the Iyun for enough years, so I hope you heard Rav Samet. And Rav Samet, in every class he gives, points out where does the story start and where does the story end. Wherever you decide, if you change and you start a few psukim later, it's going to be a different story. The main idea will be different. And what we wanted to do now is take it from our personal story. This is our way we're jumping in from our personal story to asking the question about our community. If we would have to write a book about our community, if we would want to write a book about the state of Israel, about where would we start the story and what name would we give the book? And when we go, Tavri, when we're going when we started thinking about our program, we wanted to start with the story of Exodus. And we were thinking to ourselves, where does the story start? Okay, what should be the starting point? And if you can throw in a few ideas, I'm sure you'll have more ideas than what we had. Where would you start the story? You can start from Abraham. You can start from Abraham, Yosef. In Abraham, we can start from him going down to Egypt at the Ra'av. You can start from... We can start from Yaakov Melech Hadash. We can...
already pointed out that he said we started
Can we go back to Yaakov and Lavan? Okay, we go back. But where we start the story and where we're going to end it, okay, and it's a question that each teacher, when you're going to want to implement this to your class, is going to have to ask this story. Where do I want to start? Do we start from the beginning of Shemot? Should we start earlier? What's going to be our focus? We call it in the program, we call it the heart of the story. I work in Lev Ladat, and in Lev Ladat we have this idea of Lev HaShiur, the heart of a lesson, which is not the topic of the lesson, it's not the title of the lesson, it's not the perek of the lesson. It's answering the question of what's the main idea that's relevant to my student's life. I know in the morning Rabbi Danny Vogt talked about relevance. He talked about a different kind of relevance. When we talk in this program about relevance, we're thinking of our student in San Diego or in wherever you live, 7th grader. What in this story could be relevant to his personal life? And we tried to think about this question, and we want to share with you and have you think a little bit, what would change, okay? We heard from Rav Shalom about starting from Yaakov. How would the story look if we start the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim from Brit Ben Abtarim? And here we're going in, Orit put on, in back of me are classes that we have online for teachers to use. Their students can do independent study, and it can be integrated. You can give your students to learn the first story. We divided the stories. We'll explain it a little later. We divided the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim into stories, into smaller stories. And we're asking, and a teacher can have their student do part of it online or in class, and then have a discussion for what they already studied on their own. We can do it in different ways, and here we're showing you, we have this question for our students. We want them now to look, and we want you to look at the story of Brit Ben Abtarim. When you look at the story of Perek Tetvav, the 15th chapter in Bereshit, what in this story, what does it add? What idea, what lev, what heart would you now add or name your story when we started from Brit Ben Abtarim? Okay? And we can do that for any of the beginnings you suggested. We can do the same. And if I would have time, I would have each group work on one of the beginnings, the optional beginnings, and see what different lesson plan will I come out if when I start the story from Yosef or when I started from the enslavement of the beginning of Sefer Shmot. So open up to Sefer Bereshit Tetvav, if you have a Tanakh, or if not, it's here on. And what the students are asked to do is to give a koteret, is to give a title. Okay, this is what I want you to do. Okay, and if you can skip through the Perek Tetvav and think, what title does the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, what the title you would give when you start telling the story from Brit Ben Abtarim?
Something about the promise to Abraham, like closure, fulfillment of a promise.
Okay, fulfillment. Okay, fulfillment of, and now the student will see the different answers that his friends come up with, because you're all in the same class. You all get the same. Okay, each teacher opens a class in this program of Class E for his students, and then. Okay, we can feed the different ideas and then have a discussion of which one would we choose. Anybody want to add a different title? Another title?
It's all part of the plan.
Great. It's all part of the plan. It's beautiful. It's all part of the big plan. Of the big plan.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, and think of it, what happens sometimes in our schools, that we start the year with Sefer Shmot. The kids don't have a clue of what happened in Bereshit, because the teacher of Bereshit only got up to Perek Yud Bet. They only got up to Lech Lecha. They didn't finish the book. Most of the teachers don't finish the book. I know, I've been there. So and then we start Sefer Shmot, and they have no clue of what happens and how does it connect to what was before. And when we do this, and we try and make connections, we'll get something very interesting. We'll get different ideas. Okay, part of a big plan. Okay, and it'll be a different lesson plan, totally different lesson plan than if I start from the beginning of Sefer Shmot. Okay. The handout?
Yeah. So we all have this. That's the Hebrew version. We also have it in 3 different languages, as we said before. This diagram...
okay, the English was taken this morning.
Any Russian ones?
Never mind. It says... So what is this? This is what we call an infographics, I suppose. And this is actually a diagram that shows the story of the people of Israel when the story of Exodus starts. Now we start here, as you can see, number 1, and you can see at the bottom the names of the stories, the name of the of different chapters of the story, if you can say. Okay, and we start here with Yosef in Mitzrayim. Yosef coming down to Mitzrayim, and then, as you can see with the diagram, it's different levels of the nation of Israel, where they are while the story is happening, till the end, which is going into Eretz Israel, which is going into the desert and heading towards Eretz Israel. And as you can see, sometimes they're on the top, and sometimes they're going down, the decrease and the sufferings and the slavery, and some of the things were giving them hope. Let's say the mission of Moshe coming to Paro and asking him to let my people go, and so on. Now, as you can see, we divided up the whole chapters of the Chumash that we're teaching. You can see here on the bottom to the different chapters and the different prakim of the Tanakh, taking each one of the prakim and making them a story. We actually have 6 stories talking in this program. And each one is shown here by what's happening to Israel. So also a teacher can use this diagram if they want in this class, in this specific lesson, to ask the students where to start the story and how does it affect the whole meaning of Yetziat Mitzrayim and the Exodus. Okay, so we just gave one example now of we want to start from Yosef, we want to start from Brit Ben Abtarim, which is not mentioned here, but it's much, much before that. Or do we want to start just from the plagues, or we want to start from when Moshe comes first time to Paro and asks to let the people go. So this is an example of one of the things that you can use through the sheets. As I said before, this is very, modular and helps the teacher to do some interesting things while they're teaching Sefer Shemot, and they can take this out and use it again and again and again for each part of the story. Okay, so this is about it.
It's a map. It looks like a map. It's not a geographical. It's not. It's an emotional and religious graph, okay? It gives you more. You have the explanation in back, and online it's available also in English, okay? The English ones were... And we Rav Shuki put it together, and he spent a long time and a lot of effort into getting this to show the emotional and spiritual change, and not only the transfer, the geographical transferring, which is, you can see we're going from Mitzrayim till Ve'eveti, till Eretz Israel, to the Exodus, which we here are hinting to the Exodus. And when we put this hint in, we said a lot of our students don't have a clue what the Exodus is. Okay, haven't seen the movie. Okay, so sometimes things are for us are references, and it's enough to just put in a little hint. Sometimes we need to be more explicit when we teach, and especially young children. Okay, and from, as I said, moving from the personal to the national story. We can also ask our students, where does our community story start? Where should we start the story of the state of Israel? In a way, like when we have diplomats that come to visit Israel, there's a set curriculum of what they have to do, where they have to visit. Okay, they have to visit. Yad Vashem is a must. What kind of story does it tell about the state of Israel when we decide to bring them to Yad Vashem? What different story would we tell if we would put in the protocol that you have to visit Hebron as a starting point of where our story began. We have to start in Alon Shvut. We're right near Derech Avot. We're near the path of the patriarchs. Thank you. Okay, so the question of where to start is a very deep question, and it's a very interesting dialogue that we can have. Exactly, how do we introduce ourselves? Where do we start from? Okay, and that's why we felt that starting the whole program about a story is to reach out to the question of where does our story start? Okay. Now, if we would have time, we would have a longer discussion, and we suggest here for teachers using different methods of having a discussion, that it shouldn't be like what I'm doing now is lecturing to you. A good class is when a teacher speaks less and the students speak more, but we wanted to put in a lot and just give you part of the taste, but also to have time to see the different parts of the program, so I'm sure you understand. But we suggest we have sparks. United put on their site. There are different sparks, which are small, mini techniques, teaching techniques that a teacher can implement in his class. And when we put it, when we use one of these sparks, you can go into the United site and understand. And what's important is, as I said before, we don't want to have set lessons planned. I want a teacher to see this idea of how to handle a class discussion in a way that every student will participate. Usually what happens is that we have the two strongest kids will yell out and everybody else will say, and then we're done. But here we want every student will have to write on a piece of paper and then share with his partner and then share the idea in a large group. And we want every teacher to be able to use this in a different class, in a Mishnah class, in any other class, because I find that the main thing that we have in this program is giving different techniques and different views about enriching and making our classes lively and interesting and part of our students' life. Tavri?
Okay. So this is one of the examples of the practices. One of the examples of the practices that we wanted to do in this workshop, also in class. It's called 1, 2, 4 all. It's one person taking notes and writing something with themselves, then pairing and sharing in two, and then the two and two get together and there are 4, and then they have another task or another thing to do, and then everybody joins in and share what the group was discussing or what their thoughts were and insights and so on. So this is one of the sparks. And as a whole, I want to speak for just a minute about active learning. This is one of our concepts of this program, and it is very, very important for us if we talk about relevance and we want to talk about the children's identity. We have to do it very active and very involving for the children, for the students. So active learning, it could be many things, but as along the program, as you will see it hopefully when it's all on the website, there are a lot of different sparks and different practices that you can use, which is very active. It's much less, just as Chaviva said, it's much less of the teacher talking. It's more also independent learning, but also group learning and discussions and thinking and building and sharing and doing a lot of things in class. Sometimes it's like ahead of the class, before the class starts. It's like an introduction that they do something and then the teacher teaches what's relevant. And sometimes it's in the middle, and sometimes it's like a summary of the class. So that's a few words about active learning. The second pillar, as we call it, is about identity. Chaviva will give an example.
when we talk about identity, we want our learning to build our students' identity. And that's why in every class, in every shiur that we build, in every story, we're asking the question about what in this story, if we're now talking about the story of enslavement, what in this story can be relevant for my students? What will be the heart of the story? And to tell you the truth, we had so many options to choose from. Like, it took a lot of dialogue between us and their two other writers in the program, and Rav Shuki, to get to the idea which one should we choose. And again, the fact that we chose this one, it's one of many other hearts that you can choose for your class, and it's fine. You don't have to be, your students are not my students, and finding the heart of a story is a process of thinking, why is this important? And the question that we ask over and over is why. I think it's important for students to find out that there's a stage of uncertainty or fear before you get to something that's to a success. Okay, that's something I think it's a good. Maybe you'll think that from this story there's a different idea, but we want to train the teachers to think in this way and to build the learning of the perek around this heart. It's not easy, I know. Teachers who are used to teaching perek achrei perek, translating and another perek, it's hard sometimes to get them to think differently. I spent a few days in a school last year, and one of the main things we try to do is to make a shift in this issue of how to teach to a large idea, to a big question. And I'm telling you, it's not easy. It's not easy. But I think once we have a core, an idea that's relevant, the shiur goes in a different way. The students are engaged, they're interested. We're now talking something that is really relevant to their lives.
Okay, and the third pillar is storytelling, which is a method. Also, you've been used in this program a lot, and as you could say, the name of the whole program is the story. The Tanakh is our story, and storytelling is actually taking the content and making it to be a story, okay? And once you make it a story, you ask who are the characters, where did it happen, what's the plot, what's interesting about it, what happens to the different figures and the characters, and what we do in each and every single chapter or two chapters before together. We didn't exactly go over like exactly the chapters. We took the stories, like we cut the Torah all over again and made it into 6 stories. And we asked for each story, for each student, what does it tell us? How do we relate to it? What happens to you when you hear it as a story? I think it's the real meaning of V'yigadat levincha. Okay, it's the real meaning of making it relevant and making it alive and vivid for the students.
Okay, and I'm just going to take a minute. Orit is going to kill because we have a very short day, but I think it really connects with this. When we ask where we start, we also have to ask where do we end. And we can end at the exit, we can end at Shirat Hayam, we can end at Matan Torah. A place that when I teach, I always end in Shoftim Perek Vav. I think this is my goal with my students, is to have them be like Gideon. When Gideon was approached by the Malach, when he is busy chovet chitim bagat.
On the threshing floor.
Yeah, and thank you. And the Malach tells him, Hashem imcha gibor echail. Okay, he approaches him. What does Gideon say? He doesn't say like Avraham, Hineni. Okay, I'll do whatever you say. What does Gideon say? Gideon says, Veyesh bi Adoni, Veyesh Adonai imanu. Is God with us? This is such an amazing question that Gideon is asking, and he's asking, "Velama metzatnu kol zot?" And why is all this happening to us? And where are ve'ayeh kol nifleotav asher sipru lanu avotenu lemor? Our parents just told us a story at Leila Seder, and Rav Meidan can go on and explain why this happened on Leila Seder. But just from even these verses, you can understand. He's saying, our parents just told us the story. I heard this. והיה כל נפלאותיו אשר סיפרו לנו אבותינו לאמור, הלא ממצרים העלנו אדוני, ואתה נטשנו אדוני. We just heard of God taking us out of Egypt, but now we feel that God left us. And this amazing identification with the Jewish story, and with the understanding that Yetziat Mitzrayim has an implication of what happens to me now. If I'm suffering now from the Midyanim, so I have to go and ask, where is God? Where is the same God that saved us from Egypt? And he says, "Asher sipru avotenu lemor, ata netashanu Hashem v'netananu bekaf Midyan." And then what does Hashem tell him? Vayifen elav Adonai vayomer lech bekochacha zeh v'oshata et Yisrael. He doesn't tell him, well, leave those questions out of the class or something else. He's saying, this is the strength that I want you to have, and I encourage you to take lech bekochacha, and you'll be the savior of Am Yisrael. And this is a level of identification. It's very hard to get to. My kids, every Leila Seder, I tell the story again and again, because I think it's a very high level of to identify. It's not only the first person that Rav Shalom talked about in Sefer Dvarim, but it's saying it's so internalized. The story has been told so well that I now am looking for God in my time. And this is what we would like, we hope, that we would get our students involved in a way that they'll be encouraged to ask questions, to look for the relevance.
Okay, just a few more words before we finish. First of all, we want to say that a lot of the program and a lot of the content is very inspired by Rav Sachs. For example, you see this quote, we really think that one of his main, I think, concepts was to make a story about the things and make it relevant, make it live. So some of the real parshanut that we put in, or the way of thinking, is Rav Sachs talks. The whole program is working through a kit. As I said before, modular, and something that teachers can use and choose. For example, I would just say something about the teachers' development, professional development program for teachers. We really believe that this is something new. It's a new method. It's a new practices. It's a new way of thought, of thinking about teaching Tanakh. And we really want to be in touch, and we really want to give the right guidance for the teachers who are using this program. That's why we offer all different counseling and teachers webinars and lots of other tools for the teachers to walk with us within the program. And as you can see, also the different kit that's all in the website, and we'll just show you a sneak view of the website that's being developed now, and it will, Bezrat Hashem, will be all ready for September. So Tanakh is our story. This is the name, and go down, scroll down. These are the different stories. Okay. And we have the things, the kit for teachers and for students. What?
You better have somebody go over.
Students, yes. There are a lot of things to be fixed here.
You.
Yes. I'll just say that we'll have the digital units for the teachers, for the students, as you saw before, the Class E. We have Nemo, which is called in English Chumash Compass, which is also something that children can use on their mobiles or the laptops or whatever, and also do things with a specific program. Also the handouts for the children that, as we gave you now, also you don't have to really type the whole thing, and just see whatever is relevant for your class. We have digital units, go further. This is the Class E. We have short videos, some fun things, like in the lesson you can implement it. And this is something very, very cool that we can have an hour of a talk of. Rav Shuki Rice is developing something a very nice tool, which is called Ala Mapa in Hebrew. We named it in English "Being There," and you want to show? We have like okay. This is an interactive map of Mitzrayim. You can go in and see Mitzrayim, the ancient Mitzrayim, ancient Egypt. Go into one of their holy mikdashim, temples.
And here
these are the people of Israel going out of Mitzrayim, but you could also have a tour inside of the temples and all different things to like make also. Oh, that's enough. Okay, you can switch on the lights. And children in class can use this interactive maps in different times along the program, and making them, helping them make this all alive. Really, it's we don't have time to show you the different examples, but for example, seeing the Nile and the length of the Nile and how long it is, and where the Jews of Israel, where the Jews lived and where they came out from, and all different things that we can learn about Egypt. And the nuggets is, I said that before, that's a Chumash compass. Okay, some of you may know it. It's very familiar and works well in different places. And Ken. Okay, this is one example of the plagues, I think.
Of the Pelican.
Okay.
Yeah.
The nuggets. Okay. So we showed you now the kit. Of course, you can all see it you can see it in the website, which will be ready. And basically, that's it. We want to encourage you. We want to encourage you. Thank you. To take the flyers and.
So it doesn't have a website yet.
It is. It does have a website, but we're just uploading the whole thing onto now, and you can register to get the materials. And if anyone has any questions and feedbacks,
we already have that. It has to be corrected.
What?
Students.
Yeah.
There's also question mark classes. There's a lot of.
Okay. Yeah, they have to have. Yeah. We just wanted for this day.
Contact information. How do the people contact you?
On the flyer, you have the contact information, and the people online can go into a global Tanakh, and or you can. You can scan the QR code and answer a questionnaire. Tell us what you liked, what you would want to be in contact with us, and we'll be happy to get back to you and to understand what your needs are and anything else you want. And it's through the program itself is online from United. United is offering it,
and it's for free.
It's a free. United, we had the representative of
the program of the Ministry of Diaspora Affairs, which helps empower and fund programs for Jewish schools and Jewish teachers. All around the Jewish world, except for the Russian-speaking world, which has
something else. And it's going to be in French, it's Spanish, it's already in Spanish, and in English.
Great.
Thank you.
So much.